And we start right away with exclusive material. Developing our own military forces above all is the key, I'd even say the cornerstone task for Ukraine to win this war. And here is a good illustration that Ukraine is indeed following this path. In addition to dozens of destroyed enemy strategic bombers, the Ukrainian armed forces have recently also damaged the Crimean Bridge, airfields, oil depots, and Iskander missile launchers, which the Russians use to kill civilians in Ukraine. And the cherry on top, the Operation Web 2, that's exactly what the shocked aggressors themselves called it. And all the details will be told and shown by TSN Week correspondent Alexander Zahorodny.
Here it is, look, Grandpa, over here. The main thing is not at us.
A preemptive strike before a massive attack by Russian criminals on Ukrainian cities. Friendly drones fly en masse into Russian territory. This is the Bryansk airfield burning. A Mi-8 helicopter was destroyed there, and a Mi-35 was damaged. And this is the oil depot in Engels.
Got it. We hit it, look, we hit the depot.
This is no ordinary oil depot. It is from here that fuel is shipped for Russian bombers. Was shipped. At least 3 tanks are burning. And this is no longer Engels, but Kstovo, a city near Nizhny Novgorod, at the Lukoil oil refinery. Drones are calmly making a turn, and locals have time to examine its construction.
In fact, it actually has the engine located right in the back of the vehicle. It has the engine in the back, see? It's circling around. They eat us pretty hard.
The oil depot is burning in several places.
Well, the drone just hit Lukoil, it seems. Wow.
Lukoil is on fire. Lukoil is burning.
The fire is just devouring everything there.
Another fire. Now this is Crimea, the Oktyabrski airfield. After the drone attack, half the sky was covered in thick smoke.
That's it, the Oktyabrski airfield is done for.
And this is the explosion of Iskander M missile launchers in the Bryansk region. Historic footage. For the first time, Ukrainian forces managed to track and destroy such a high-value target. And finally, this is a Su-35 burning out in the Bryansk region. Just look at how many events have happened, and all of this took place in just 1 week. Even the explosion on the Kerch Bridge. It feels like that happened a very, very long time ago. But in fact, it only happened on Monday. And although the occupying authorities claim that everything is fine with the bridge, just look at the lines in Shonhar right now. The main traffic, the Russians are trying to route not through the Kerch Bridge. And this is already a classic move from the SBU. In this service, they deliberately wait several days for the Russians to react, and then it happens. In their foreign ministry, and not just anyone either. Deputy Minister Sergei Ryabkov denies that Ukrainian drones destroyed 4 dozen strategic bombers and other aircraft. As he wrote, there is nothing even remotely like that. And after this statement, the SBU released this video showing dozens of burning aircraft. Here you can clearly see how the drones take off from the truck and calmly choose their target. And no one even tries to shoot them down. The Russians are trying to hide the scale of the tragedy. They dragged all decommissioned planes to the side of the destroyed aircraft, supposedly to show that everything is still there, and the surviving planes were relocated to the most remote airfields. One Tu-160 was even found in Anadyr. That's 6,600 kilometers from Ukraine. And most importantly, there isn't a single road near this airfield. It's impossible to get there with a truck carrying drones. They've literally driven their planes to the edge of the world. There's a 10-hour time difference. Just think about it. Only a week ago, the Russians were calmly, openly delivering missiles to their airfields, and today they're hiding their planes at the end of the earth. By the way, it's obvious that trucks are becoming the trump card that the President of the United States, Donald Trump, questioned us about so persistently and for so long. Just think about it. It was a truck that delivered explosives to that very Crimean Bridge in 2023. And in 2025, trucks brought in hundreds of drones that destroyed part of the enemy's strategic aviation. But what are we supposed to do when we aren't given long-range missiles? So how are we supposed to deliver explosives to enemy depots, oil storage facilities, and airfields? Notice that almost none of the world leaders are eager to comment on the Special Operation Web. They are still shocked by the ingenuity of the Ukrainian special services. This is a new tactic that requires all of them to come up with new ways to counter such special operations. But the Ukrainians keep coming up with new things. On Saturday, dozens of drones flew out from several cars of a military train, destroying almost all the military equipment, 13 tanks, and several other armored vehicles. A sort of Web 2. And by the way, it was the occupiers themselves who reported this. I'd just like to clarify with the Russians, is their special military operation still going according to plan? Especially the demilitarization part, because the issue with the Black Sea Fleet is practically resolved. Their strategic aviation is already in Anadyr, and their armored vehicles are burning on railway platforms. But seriously, we clearly understand that the enemy is still powerful. They still have a sufficient number of aircraft and armored vehicles, and even expendable soldiers for meat assaults. But the main thing is, the process has begun. In June 2025, they started to fear us.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
And now an analysis of the operational situation on the much-suffering Pokrovsk direction of the front. The bloody bacchanalia of the enemy army continues here as well. On the Pokrovsk direction since the beginning of the day, the occupiers have made 21 attempts to push our defenders from their positions in the areas of the settlements of Myrolyubivka, Yelizavetivka, Malinivka, Luk, Lisivka, Udachne, Bodonivka, Alexeyevka, Zelenikut, Andriivka, and towards Muravka. The defense forces are holding back the enemy's onslaught and have already repelled 19 attacks. 2 clashes are still ongoing. And now, about a real hell on earth, there is simply no other way to put it. A black day in the Chernihiv region, in the city of Pryluki, 3 generations of one family were laid to rest at once. A mother, a daughter, and a granddaughter. All 3 died when the Russian Shahed drone made a direct hit on their house during the night. The details and consequences of this deadly attack are covered in a chilling report by TSN correspondent Irina Kondratyuk.
This is a quiet, densely populated street, where now among the private houses there is a heavy smell of burning. For the second day in a row, locals have been cleaning up their homes.
My hands are still shaking, and the explosion was so strong right here that our whole house trembled. It was only after that we ran outside.
Ior and his wife Ludmila live across from the house where the Russian Shahed drone struck on the night of June 5th.
It was a terrifying event. There was shouting, noise, people yelling, "Get Grandpa out! Get Grandma out!"
They were shouting, "Get Grandpa out! Get Grandma out!"
They did manage to get her out, Ludmila says, even though the walls and doors had collapsed on top of the woman.
It rumbled loud. I ran out quickly.
It was a roar. I rushed outside. Grandpa was still shouting, "Why are you standing there?" I said, "What do you mean? Why am I standing? Can't you hear that rumbling?" I had just stepped out, just opened the door. Grandpa buried under rubble.
And here he is, 77-year-old Valentin, walking through the charred remains of the family home, trying to spot at least something that survived. But it's really just remnants of belongings.
This used to be the bathroom. Over there was the kitchen, the living room, the bedroom. My daughter lived there with her husband. Now there's no daughter, no granddaughter, and no great-grandson.
27-year-old granddaughter Darina and her 1-year-old son Misha came from Kiev to visit for a few days. The old man stayed behind, so that, where the fire left behind charred construction debris, there used to be 5 rooms. This private house was home to 2 families, but a single strike from a Russian drone took the lives of 3 generations of this family at once. That night in Pryluki, there were several fires breaking out simultaneously in different parts of the city all as a result of the enemy drone attack.
The police have already received more than 80 reports and statements from citizens regarding the damage.
As a result of the massive attack, 2 households were completely destroyed, 15 houses in the private sector were damaged, as well as 15 apartment buildings.
Educational institutions, businesses, and infrastructure facilities were also affected. But most of the state emergency services efforts had to be focused on this particular house.
We managed to arrive in just 3 minutes, but because our unit was significantly damaged by the powerful blast wave, it became extremely difficult for us to get there safely and also to leave the area on time.
The wooden building, faced with brick, went up in flames like a match. And all of this happened right before the eyes of rescuer Alexander. This is his house, his wife, his daughter, and his only grandson.
Kabini knew the process of eating from home. He didn't know he was going home. Everyone was driving. Shahids were falling in the city center. The horror in his eyes, you had to see it to believe it. His daughter served in Kiev City Patrol Police, so patrol officers from Kiev and Pryluki are standing next to him. Everyone is here, police officers, rescuers, and many other townspeople. A great number of people have come to this funeral today.
It seems like all of Pryluki is here today near this church. Hundreds of people are gathering from everywhere, bringing fresh flowers and soft toys to pay their last respects to the innocently killed.
On this terrible night in Pryluki, 5 people lost their lives. And this is the greatest tragedy for the city since the beginning of the full-scale invasion.